Hey friends. Hey friends. Whew. I'm somehow very conscious of my Corvette shirt today. This is how you know I've gotten to the bottom of my t-shirt drawer. I I've been doing some reading recently. This is kind of not something I typically would talk about on the post, but I've been reading about AI. It's all in the news these days. If you haven't seen it, I don't know how you could have not seen it. And there's a total, all the furor around it and the dangers around it. High profile researcher and software designer just quit at Google, and because he's afraid that nobody's taking the right precautions and wanted to speak out. So it feels like it's reached a kind of feverish pitch very quickly, and I don't know enough to speak to that. But what I do, as somebody who's always been fascinated by things like philosophy and psychology, looking at developmental psychology, how the human mind evolves over the course of a lifetime as we grow up from childhood into adulthood, and also over longer periods of time through cultural evolution. There's something about the whole thing with AI that strikes me, and the thing is, this is where I don't know this. I need to sort of inform myself a little more, I think, before I can really speak to this with any kind of conviction. But I do get the sense that some of the fear is a little overblown, because what's really happening is human thought is not machines don't think like humans. They're being taught to render results that are similar to human answers when they're asked a question in languages that they have been programmed, that they have vast amounts of data collected in. So there's a kind of, it's like a mirage. It's like the illusion of thought, but it's not really thought. It's not actual human thought. As far as we know, there's no interiority. The philosopher Ken Wilber, who had a big influence on me and kind of cleared up a lot of my sticking points when I was a young person, fixed on discovering the world, discovering the nature of reality through the mind, when that was really my full-time job. What Ken Wilber did was untangle some of that and kind of explain why make very evident why that's a fool's errand, why the mind will never understand reality, and the mind has a specific purpose within it. And one of the things that one of the distinctions that he articulates is the distinction between interiority, which is the experience of consciousness as an I, as a point of perspective. So my me, Robin, what feels like me, has a perspective on the world, and my perspective takes place within my interiority. That's where it happens. There's an exteriority to me. Clearly, you can see me, hopefully. And I look around the world and I see the exteriorities of other things. I see the exteriorities of material objects. I see the exteriors of other human beings, right? And one of the foundational conflicts that Ken Wilber unravels is the conflict between science and religion, where, or science and spirituality, where he basically says science is, this is again, it's gross generalizations, and I'm not doing justice to either his perspective or necessarily the material he's treating, but science is the realm of exploring exterior phenomena. It's the domain of science is exterior phenomena. We do experiments, we see what the experiments render, and then we understand more of what's happening. Sometimes we're making deductions. We can't see everything, but we can. But if a certain effect is observed, we can make a deduction about what's going on. But all that happens in the exterior. That's all happening out there. I run the experiment in my lab. That's the exterior. The realm of spirituality is the interior. And the point that Ken Wilber makes, I think, so beautifully is the empirical, like the scientific process of hypothesis and experiment and observations and conclusions can be engaged in the interior domain. I can do that with my own interior experience, and what that starts to look like is spiritual practice. It starts to look like what they've done for centuries in monasteries and convents and spiritual institutions across the globe. So in other words, what Ken Wilber did a really good job of was defining where science and spirituality, or science and religion, do share common features, do interpenetrate, and where they don't. And ultimately, there is no conflict between the two. There's only a conflict between the two if we become entrenched on one side or the other, and we start to think that that perspective, the domain we are in, invalidates the process in the other domains. Anyway, this is a long lead up to saying AI is still happening in an exterior computer system, and we have no reason to believe that there's any interiority there. It's performing functions in processors, and I mean, there's no way of knowing. We could ask it, but there's no reason to believe that a network of computer servers with a software program designed to run certain, processes on data experiences anything like human interiority. I have seen no evidence to tell me to make me think that that's the case, and I haven't seen anybody putting forward evidence that that's the case. So this notion that AI is replacing human thinking is to me, it's not even an interesting idea. That's not what's happening. What's happening is we're creating ever better illusions of human thought. We're getting to where machines can do something that is so like human thinking that we almost can't tell it apart, because all we see is the linguistic result of a question or the answer to a problem that we can't possibly process in our. It's not how the human brain works. We can't just take the internet and funnel it into our brain in one. We're not at the Matrix yet. And I've got a whole list of articles that I'm excited to read about this topic, because I really am curious, kind of what's going on there. But I also have a bit of I come back to my sort of like philosophical roots when I think about this technology and I think about where we are, because I'm like, it's not human consciousness. The reason why human beings are on Earth is to evolve consciousness. That's what we're here for. whether we know it or not, he said boldly, with nothing to back it up. But I think that's what's going on. I would put a lot of money down on that. We're here to evolve consciousness. Consciousness has an interior and an exterior. Right? So AI is just another tool. It's just another thing out there that's doing what it's supposed to do, and hopefully we'll use it wisely. So yeah, kind of an atypical topic for my post about living from our highest place, but it's been on my mind. And now that I'm going to go and read a bunch of articles, you'll probably have to hear more about it. Maybe you're enjoying this. I don't know. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.